Thunderbirds are... Oh, okay, I'm back. Yep, cool.
Oh, hello, everybody, and welcome to the LJL officially unofficial broadcast podcast. Wait, broadcast pod?
The broadcast
Season
of the
2,
podcast.
Season
Yeah,
3,
that's the one.
episode 5, MaskedSwan, Alex, otherwise known as X, go by MaskedSwan on the internet. I am joined by the man always in the middle. I even switched to this scene just so I could keep doing this.
Yeah.
Initialise, sir! Wait,
I am a really big fan of Jimmy Eat World, and so I put myself in the middle.
It's gonna
if you
take
get that
some
reference,
time.
I love you.
Girl, you're in the middle of the ride.
Everything will be all right. Everything.
fine.
Actually, right, just fine then. All right. Damn it, I'm going around.
Yep,
It's okay. I do that.
the one.
It's all right.
Are you
I did well.
How are you though, buddy? How are you been?
I'm doing all right. I'm failing badly at Elden Ring mostly is what I've been doing today. Because I am not good at the game. It's my first Souls-like, and I've done a lot of dying to the Tree Sentinel thus far. But I am trying to do it level 1 with bad frame drops and not a...
Wait, level 1 still? You're still level 1?
Well, like starting level.
Oh, right.
So I'm trying to, so I basically just gone, no, this looks fun, and I'm just sort of like doing well until I have to roll a shield drop. And
If that doesn't encapsulate the entire mindset we have here at the LJL in terms of, look, we're level 1, let's go stream some fucking boss fight League of Legends in the LJL.
Yep.
2 years later, we're like,
Yep.
I'm ready to go for another round.
It's not even like you've gone down the normal path. You've taken this side route and found like this hidden mimic. That there is like, like who done the major regions? We found they got down the side path, found this LJL plays.
It was a complete
got attacked by the mimic that is Burning Core
Yeah.
Sengoku from last year. You think it's a normal game, and you're in this horror story of Burning Core Sengoku. It's a mimic game. It's not actually League of Legends.
We will. We absolutely will. Nymaera!
Oh,
Mr. LEC man. So much LEC
That's me.
that you were on another podcast just talking about LEC. How are you, buddy? You must be like tired as fuck, if anything.
okay, so let's have a check-in with me because holy shit, this has been a month. So I've now been doing a solid month of LJL Sundays. NLC Monday, Wednesday with a meeting in between
You've
for
been
NLC.
asking for the Sundays, by the way, people, before you
I
ask.
have, yeah.
Yes.
And then LEC meeting on Wednesdays. Scripting everything I need to do for individual segments on Thursdays. LEC Friday, Saturday. I have a 7-day fucking week, baby. It's
Yeah, baby.
It has been an incredible learning curve. Like completely being open with this. I thought I was only going to be on for 3 weeks, and they were like, "Sweet, do you want to come back for a bit?" I'm like, okay. So like last week was meant to be my break week, and it ended up not being a break week. So it has been a really cool amount of work. Any kind of studio time and time with these regions, I'm always going to take because it's a really good experience. But holy crap, it has been quite wearing. So yeah, I'm glad that I've had some kind of more. So I took a week off NLC this week, and I've used that time to recover a bit, and I've been better for it. I've had some time to actually lie in and catch up on some sleep and not have constant headaches and migraines all the
That's never a
time.
great thing, mate, when you're just like, finally, I can have an hour lie-in.
Yeah,
It's wonderful.
yeah. And you know what I used that time for? I'm like, sweet, I got a break week. How about I go on 2 podcasts? That's not
and you're
work,
still
right?
waking up for LCK, because I know it's
I'm
you.
still waking up for LCK. Yeah.
Like both of you as well, actually. Both of you keep waking up for LCK.
Well,
you watch a bit of
okay, so-
LPL. Like
The reason I wake up for that is because currently so this is not the room I sleep in because like I mean technically there is a sofa bed there, but the room which I sleep in is like it's really bad at keeping out light because it's kind of like a corner wall and the blind doesn't like line up.
right.
So I wake up with like the sunrise like that. So I wake up really, really early, and while I can kind of drift back off to sleep, like I'm up at that point a lot of the time. So it means that I get to see a lot more LCK, and you know LGL by the same ticket as well, even on days where I'm working on other shit. But yes, that has effectively been my last month. It has been like absolute hyperbolic time chamber, and I feel like I'm really good at my job now, which is cool. But it's been a month.
So it sounds
It's
like,
been a
mate,
month.
you need to go on Amazon. You need to buy some of those blackout
Yes,
like
I really
things where they cost like €10 and you can just black out your window.
Yeah, that'd probably really help.
Yeah, it might be a good idea. But anyway, other than that, well, gentlemen, it sounds like you've both had a very busy couple of weeks, and it's been so busy, the three of us haven't been on a podcast since episode 1. That's how busy it's been.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we were really prescient at that point because our thumbnail for that was like the Macbeth Shakespearean witches.
Yeah.
It was like when shall we three meet again? Apparently now. So for those who fear occult means, depart the building, pursued by a bear. Which is okay. For the record, that was in one of Shakespeare's scripts. So it's just like exit stage, pursued by a bear.
Depart stage right, pursued by a bear. Yes.
Yep. That's the one. But yeah, we finally made it back. Macbeth, be afraid. Be very, very wary of your next prophecy.
Be so afraid because I've got content in the pipeline that people in the LJL have been seeing. Oak got the first showing of it, and
that's very cool.
He was impressed. He was actually impressed. So I'm not building up.
He didn't tell you that this isn't the time or place to use this.
God.
This is absolutely the time and place to use this, even though my boss
don't ride your bike indoors.
Was insisting that I had to have all the VODs out on the YouTube. Jesus Christ, role reversal more than anything else. Right. Outside of that, my week's been pretty topsy-turvy. Had some pretty good days, had some pretty bad days. It's been, I've kind of hit the neutral point, I feel like. So, I mean, I'll take neutral. Neutral's always the safer place to be at this moment in time where things are unsure in everything. And and gentlemen, we do need to take a brief moment while this is an entertainment podcast, and we do need to acknowledge that the world is not where it was when the last podcast was recorded. Our thoughts go out to the people over in Ukraine. It is a very scary time for everyone and all involved. And yeah, gentlemen, do you have any other words you'd like to say? Obviously, we're here to entertain. Like, we are here to entertain. Not to take away from anything, but we putting an acknowledgement out there.
Yeah.
So, how to word this? Obviously, okay, so this is obviously going to be a weird tonal shift for everyone who's watching and stuff like that, and apologies if that... Yeah, just, okay, but this is, no, like, you know, at the end of the day, we want this to be sincere and all the rest of it, and, you know, this is an incredibly terrifying situation for everyone who's affected by the situation. Obviously, the whole of Europe is watching war on their continent again, and this should never be something which is allowed to happen, or nor something which Ukrainian people should ever have to suffer through. So, yeah, it's a very difficult and scary time, and all I hope is that it's resolved quickly and with as little loss of life as possible. But yeah.
I think to add into that, obviously, we I think with this we stand behind Ukraine in this instance. Of course, absolutely, we are looking to or praying, hoping, looking intently into the situation, hoping for an end of it as peacefully and as soon as possible. But obviously, you know, hopefully this space can be a place of enjoyment in difficult times.
We'll try and give you a distraction if we can.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to try and dwell on it too much, aside from to say we, like many others, stand behind it and encourage those people in the country, those outside of the country, to do what they can to help in the ways they can, basically.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we not do our shilling program, because we are not the news programs where they immediately cut over to an Applebee's ad. Yes, that's a real thing that happened over in America.
Oh boy,
like,
that was something.
Yikes. Yeah. But what we will do, gentlemen, is to actually firstly swap over so it's just our three beautiful faces. And to remind people where they can go and watch the LJL for some distractions. Because, like, that's what we're here for. The LJL is, honestly, the greatest region that anyone could subscribe to, could watch. And if you would like to watch, we do go live every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And in 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen, Super Week starts. So Monday, we will be having 4 days. We will be live 4 days
really?
a week, gentlemen.
I actually hadn't quite realized that.
Okay. Well,
it's going to be thinking about how to schedule this now.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy time. Everybody, for a quick rundown, we're going to be recapping days 6, 7, and 8. Very quickly, we'll do a quick rundown. We've got a few games and a few points to obviously highlight. We will cover all of the teams as our standard rundown of each of the teams and how they're currently doing. We'll talk about how the triple round robin system and how we think that's currently working for our region, as that's a brand new addition, right? And as well, the effect and it's actually a return to the old because it was 2019 when we last had that. So yeah, and also we'll be talking about the anticipations to what it means for these 2 weeks before we reach the 2-week super week, which is a weird way of phrasing that. But we'll figure it out as and when we go. Yeah, sorry, I just had a quick message and it doesn't matter. At this moment in time, yeah, I'm just like, I'm producing at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. That's why I'm also doing, I get confused.
Exactly, he's doing very well.
Yeah, when you think of like the hamster wheels like running in the background for the broadcast to keep working, that's actually Lexi just
That's
on the
basically
hamster
Lexi,
wheel.
yeah.
Like, quick aside, by the way, not sure if you've been checking chat, but we are being graced by the presence of by Corporal, who's in chat, who's obviously
Ian, my boy, good to have you.
Someone we've got a lot of time for, and we hope that you're doing well over in the LCO. And
his team's got a positive record, so that's
we'll take
that.
I mean, the LJL. I mean, I just kind of I miss his. So for those of you that are not aware of Corporal and stuff, for the longest time, he was on like the 0-6 starting AXIZ or the 0-8 starting AXIZ, while like having like crazy thresh games.
Hawks roster as well, and
no, but then it's just like the team, and then just like one thresh hook at a time, getting close to the playoffs.
Yeah. he and Hoglet were desperately trying at one point a couple of years ago.
I miss you, Corporal. I hope you're doing well, and hopefully we'll see you internationally at some point. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, Order are gonna make it to MSI, and then we can have some great content, mate. You know, an interview's getting requested if you make MSI for us. That is a lock-in guarantee. I will promise you that one. But gentlemen, let's get on to some of the big news stories of this week for the LJLOU, and something that the three of us first are going to talk about. I know I brought the standings on, but it popped into my head. I did a big call out for us. It was a big moment for us. I'm going to do it again because all three of us are here. We're the founders. Guess what we did, ladies and gentlemen, which was a huge thing and a big legitimacy to the LJLOU.
We found the LJL. That's what we did. We went looking, we found it. It was lost.
Shut up. Out. Get out.
Look, like he was like mid-rant, and then I just gave him a pause like this. Look at his face. He's so disappointed in me.
You can pick it up. You can continue where I built up.
I've given the explanation. It's great. I know exactly what it means. We found it when it was lost. Yeah.
We were used on LoL Esports official content, boys.
It's true.
And as a quick aside, to my understanding, we are the first unofficial broadcast to have their content used in Riot game stuff. I don't believe the LPL unofficial people had. I believe they had connections, and they had similar connections like we had with like Worlds prepping and stuff. And
it's a very rare thing to happen. Yeah. Yeah, it's huge.
Go for it, Gemma.
It's huge.
I've already had my whole I had a 2-minute monologue talking about this already. So
I was sat in Green Room for NLC when I heard about this, and I saw it, and it's like I did tear up a little because you know, I think all of us have seen a lot of good things come our way recently in terms of this and other things in the casting world, and as much as I have been on very cool stuff, and I have been on the LEC and all this other thing, like, there's something really raw and visceral and just so fucking vindicating about working our asses off for 2 years. And we know that we're in a weird spot when it comes to the esports industry and the LJL and Riot Japan and all this other stuff, because we're just some kids with microphones and cameras shouting at some games. And we just rocked up and like, sweet, we're gonna go talk about Japanese League of Legends. And 2 years later, we've kind of had a bit of a head nod from the head honchos over there, been like, sweet, we'll use this as kind of like a segue between the Japanese and the international communities, which is what we set out to be. So it's incredibly vindicating. And
the stuff that
really
Azael said and referenced to, that is like direct quotes from our pre-game. Like the 30-minute pre-game desk where we made some conversation and points, that was like quoting from that. And I was just like, good.
I mean,
we know that a lot of people we know that a lot of the casters like came to us rather to like international events to ask about our region. But yeah, to kind of see people kind of use our content and learn from it and use it is really, really cool.
I think the background macro stuff there was covered really well by both the Alexes, but for me there was something I basically came off a game. I was commentating for the NST. I came off a game. Al told me what had happened, and I looked at it and I hear my voice commentating a really cool play by the guy. I'm like, I just sort of sat there like somewhere between shell shocked and tearful. It's really cool. It's really cool. Like I like to have like something that is I don't know. It's kind of like it's our baby. It's our project. But in some ways, it's always been in a weird space. It was like, does it ever really get acknowledged, if you know what I mean? Like in some ways, but we've moved on to do other stuff within esports a bit, you know what I mean? We've done some other spaces, and while I'm so happy to still be doing this, it's always one of those ones like, is it ever really gonna
pay off?
Yeah.
Hey, well, not even just like pay off, because in some ways,
Where's it gonna go?
Like, I
What's
moved to
happening
Berlin,
with it?
but like
Yeah.
actually, does this just become a part of my history, if you know what I mean? And to actually get at least something into the history books that are actually kind of that's been recognized, if you know what I mean, in an actual public-facing video is really, really, really cool.
And the fact
Really
that it
cool.
was on both the Riot Japan official page and LoL Esports.
I didn't realize on the esports one too. What the fuck?
Yeah,
was
it's on
something big
both.
up, yeah.
It's
Oh
on
shit!
both.
I didn't realize that. I only saw it on the Red JP one.
Yeah, so the Japanese fans, if they didn't know of us, they've been shown. And there were a few comments talking about the officially unofficial. Like, they referenced us by our name brand. Like, that was so cool in the comment section. It was, like, the most liked comment as well on that video on the Japanese one, which is, like, it's cool. And then LoL Esports, it's just, like, that's just cool for us to have the English community to be aware more that there are Japanese people casting over the Japanese league. Like, there are English speakers covering the Japanese league.
Or at least foreign viewers, because the thing with I know we're on a bit of a tangent, but this is a cool tangent.
No, it's a
the
good
thing
one.
the thing with like obviously Japanese broadcasts, understandably in Japanese, but that is quite a narrow amount of people who speak Japanese. Like, you tend to be Japanese yourself or have some interaction with the country, right? I speak a bit because I live there. You've got some friends and stuff who do because they love the country or they're into anime and manga and stuff. There's reasons to get into it, but it's either a passion project or something to do with Japan. That does mean that exporting your League of Legends content to a wider audience is actually quite tricky, because you just don't have the common tongue. Like, English is, you know, it's a lot of people's second languages. It's a lot of people's third language. People at least have some basic understanding. And so if you're listening into an ERL or whatever, sometimes you go listen to the English language. The reason the LFL now has just, has set up an additional English broadcast, because not everyone really speaks French, whereas a lot more people do speak English. And that's really, really cool.
And I might
Korea's
be
got an English
biased, but
broadcast.
it's got
China's
the
an English
Ravishing
broadcast.
Man himself, so it's instantly
It does.
10x better.
It
So
does.
I mean, it's just, sorry, continue.
And so actually I don't know, to have people go, yeah, there is an English broadcast, it's worth listening to, is really, really cool, because I think that is actually a big deal in terms of providing a window into the region to not just like native English speaking countries, but a bigger audience even than that potentially, which is really awesome.
Gentlemen, now where do we go? We have to become official. We have to become
well,
official now.
yes.
Like, where's the next step?
They literally know where to find us, so...
They do. They do.
In the LEC studio, if you know what I mean, Nymaera?
Yeah, so this is actually not the Airbnb that Sam and I in. I've just
studio.
found one of their green rooms. I spruced it up. I brought my PC in here, and now, like, because they just forgot about me when they locked the doors, I'm just here now. Yeah, they can't get rid of me.
How does food work?
There's catering, every so often. I just yeah.
He's like, he's
Okay,
he's
so
like a gremlin that goes into like other teams' green rooms and steals their snacks from their bags and hoards them somewhere. Like Yanko,
Yeah,
the reason
that's
Yankos looks so angry, it looks so angry recently, is just like you've just seen Al stealing all his food. That's what it is.
Yep, that's me. Yeah. Catch me if you
Rogue's
can,
lost streak is
motherfuckers.
because he's been stealing their food, so they're low on sugar going into games.
They lost that Ari. It's their own fault.
That's the reason he stole their food.
Let's talk about how DFM boys have gone 8-0 onto a different note. Because while it's fantastic that we're doing great, DFM are stomping the league. And weirdly enough, last episode, we asked, or rather, we had the opinion that they had downgraded. Nish, maybe we
do
were wrong.
not agree with that,
I mean,
actually.
So the thing is, it was always going to be massive, titanic shoes to fill. You have lost the two best players in the region who performed above and beyond expectation. Gang was also a veteran for DFM. It wasn't even like he came in new. And And you have two LCK players who are, for Yaharong at least, have been good, but on lower end teams and have struggled to convert individual talent into consistency enough to stay in the LCK. And Harp, who was a bit of an unknown, kind of more around the challenger scene than anywhere else. And they come in, and they're there's no difference in some ways. They've just turned up and played. Am I expecting them to be at Gang and Aria's level? Maybe not. But they've not needed to be. I mean, Yarong's been really good in terms of being an extra carry. He's been fantastic.
Yeah,
but he's also been given a lot of space to carry. The thing that's really impressed me is Ebby has hit another goddamn gear.
I didn't think Ebby could look this good, actually. I thought this was reserved for, like, international Ebby.
No,
but he's
It's the champion pool. It's the champion pool. He's playing Camille and Trendemir and Gwen. We've seen him. He's not played Renekton once this split. Yaharong has played it twice.
I'm waiting for it, though.
Well, I'm sure, but the thing is, he's still going to have it in the back pocket. But we are finally seeing this guy who has been so stubborn about playing his picks. Don't get me wrong, he plays them incredibly well. And we know he'd like occasionally pull out a Camille or whatever. But it wasn't the go-to. The fact that he has this split basically says, you have to permaban Trendemir against me, or I will destroy you. Not just be good on the champion. I will 1v9 to the point where your map falls apart in half. And then you have someone like Utapon still being able to play the Zeri and look really good and still play weak side and still look good with a new support. They've been almost a little over-aggressive, honestly, with Harp hunting for 1v2 kills between towers on Thresh, which cost them a couple kills in one game.
Because it's about sending a message.
Like, the versatility of this team, especially for the OG members, has really impressed me.
So then I'm going to go cover the bit which you missed then in terms of, like, going in depth in terms of the mid-jungle. Because the thing which impressed me the most about this team, actually, and to respond to the comment that was made last week about, has DFM downgraded? I will say, and I believe I've said this on another episode too, given how far they are into their development cycle, I think DFM are doing better than any previous iteration of DFM. I think that if you look at Spring, where they were playing with Kazu last year, I think that they took a while to come online. They did have some issues. You look at Summer, they came back from MSI and they went 1-3. I think that it's pretty obvious to look at this roster and say, they've got their shit together much earlier than the previous iterations of DFM. And I think that is very scary. Now, you could fall into a kind of like a roguelike issue. No, I'm not going to make jokes about banning Isaac.
I was going to say, I was just like, is it a Hades?
Yeah.
It's time.
Well, I'm going to save that reference. We might use that at some point. But the thing is that DFM I think that DFM, you know, they will need to show some development to play. They'll need to show some development to play multiple styles. And that is going to be something that's going to inevitably come to bite them when it's just like, oh, we can only play around Ebby doing XYZ in top lane. Maybe that changes at some point, right? But the thing which really excites me about this team is that you look at Yaharong in the mid lane, he's playing stuff like Renekton, Nidalee. That shit takes coordination. We knew it took a while, actually, for DFM to play very heavily around mid-jungle. That was one of the things which happened in summer, where they went towards Shaco LeBlanc midway through the split, and they picked up their wins again. But to have Yaharong... to have Yaharong like very confidently go towards the next and play out the games very effectively, that's a really good sign for this team. And I think that is going to be a good calling card for them to say, like, yeah, we can play towards this mid-jungle. It does seem like the Japanese of the new imports has been really, really good. And that's obviously a huge thing in terms of communication. Communication comes into the fore a lot with the LJL when you've got a lot of macro coming about, and DFM's macro and the way that they approach fights has been really good. So the question is, you know, are you going to run to a point where you actually can't develop beyond one style of play? Or are they just that damn good? Because that's my read on it right now. I think they're just really good.
Yeah, like we have seen a certain amount of versatility, because like Steel has obviously preferred the Poppy, but they've done it with Veigar. They've done Nidalee. They've done Diana. They have done other stuff.
Special,
you've seen Utapon where he's like, I've got Harp who's not in lane, he's gone elsewhere. But I've also been able to go Zeri Yumi and then be the 1v9 ridiculous threat, wall running all over the place to really style on kids.
Okay, and
that's really good news. What I will say is while I agree, I expected this team to be good coming into this split. But that's because I rated the members that were remaining, and I thought that DFM would have done their due diligence in terms of scouting, especially considering they've got a pedigree when it comes to getting in new players. That said, I didn't expect them to be that good, as good as they have been. But I'll also counter, before Lexi cuts in.
gonna-
I'm still not convinced that they're as good as last year's roster until they get to the finals. Like, they're on track. I am excited. There seems to be the potential, which is really exciting and cool for the region, but they need to actually go and damn well do it, you know what I mean? Let me see them run through playoffs and turn up at MSI.
Can I ask you a question, Sam?
Yeah.
DFM 2021 summer finals version of DFM. Maybe their best version, except for maybe part of Worlds play-ins when they looked incredible.
Yeah.
DFM, this version. What do you think the ceiling is? Do you think it's greater than or lower than?
Depends if they're going to stick together for more than a season.
Let's just assume we get them for the full year and that's it.
Okay.
I think if it's for the full year, I think it could be... I don't know if they're going to be quite as high.
Wait. I want Sam to say first, because I don't want you to...
Sorry, yeah, gotcha. My bad.
Here is my test, I think. I would like... Because I think the thing that is raising my eyebrows, and obviously they've got that, like, the mid-jungle's already there, which is really good.
Absolutely.
But actually, the thing that's kind of like, could this team be better, is if Ebby keeps playing the way he has been on the Champions, he has been at an international level. Because obviously at MSI, he got to do some horrible things to Khan, solo killed him loads of time, looked really, really good. And then at Worlds, he was basically asked to be a bit more of a teleport player, a bit more of a role player. And he did that pretty well. There was some good stuff with the Urgot, but he didn't get to be the lane, like the really like bullshit lane dominant Ebby who just denies you all that CS. That wasn't the playstyle he got to go towards. And if he keeps playing at the level he has done on the Champions he has done, I think he becomes a real terror, actually, because he has already proven to be an exceptional international class top laner.
Agreed.
But I think potentially with the current meta and the way that DFM have shown they want to play through him, or at least offer him a split push with Hullbreaker and he gets to do horrible things. Like, you know, you can go to the 1-4. I think potentially they could be better, but that's purely because I think Ebby's kind of taken on the mantle and gone, I shall be the god now, when he already kind of was, you know? And I think that even if Yaharong and Hop end up at a similar level to Iron Gang or just slightly lower, they can potentially do better because Ebby's gone up.
Yeah,
Potentially.
I think
that would be my take.
My question's more about their early game macro. Like, I think that what we saw when they got through the World's groups is that they just couldn't... They had a limited amount of creativity that they had practiced towards in the early game, and that was
We
largely...
also had 2 out of the 3 best teams, so in a more reasonable group, we probably do better.
No, there is a lot to be said about that. Even then, I think that this showed up in play-ins too, but then obviously it was very much exposed to that. There was just a kind of like, there was a bit of a cap to what they were doing in the early game. Like, they knew what to do when they had a lead coming into, like, when they managed to stabilize lanes and get towards a Herald fight, second Dragon fight, blah, blah, blah. They were really good at doing that at that point. But we always knew that DFM weren't even the best early game team in the LJL. V3 were better than them at that. I mean, when you look at how Mugen was playing, and
that's how that's how V3
exactly.
Ace specifically actually found a way to motivate the team to actually just hard carry. He was just like, sacrifice my lane, go everywhere else, and then basically just played that with Mugen, even though it was not the meta to do that.
Yeah, and I think that did change towards the end of summer when DFM started firing, and I also think Rascal Jesters had their moments, but I agree. Like, you saw other teams be able to compete with them at least,
especially in the early.
And then you'd kind of hit 15 minutes, and then the macro comes online, and the lane advantages convert to other things.
My question is, what are you going to do on, there are so many teams that I see just like absolutely winning games in like the first 6-7 minutes. I think, Rogue and Fnatic from the LEC are the two which I'm just like, look, yeah, they have completely squashed your lane. What are you going to do about this? If you look at like how Malorang's like, so T1's kind of up there too, but you look at like, I don't know, like Malorang when Rogue played XL, and you just like, he rushes level 3, sits around bot and just crushes their bot lane. I'm not sure DFM can deal with that style of play, and I don't think that's really their specialty either.
Well,
I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them have some options to, at a higher level, play out early games much more aggressively. Because I think that's the last kind of tool in the toolkit which I want to see them add.
Well, a huge issue around that one, Nymaera, is one of our players that is really good and important and actually has been the defining point of making those decisions and being the shot caller. Still is on Poppy duty because he wants to just abuse people on Poppy, and we're going to make a perfect example of this because, wait, no, did it wrong. To us. I'll do it in a moment. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it all set up. And
It's here. There it is. We got it. All right.
Producer Lexi. This is why I don't produce. By the way, next 2 game days are going to be produced by me. So
excellent. I'm ready.
Interesting VODs coming, ladies and gentlemen. But Detonation focused me facing off against Burning Core. Oh, by the way, my opinion on the whole topic of higher ceiling, lower ceiling. I think we've got a higher ceiling just because we have more time. Would be subjective.
Actually, that's a fair shout because, of course, with the way things were last split, you didn't get to have. That's actually a reasonable tick because Aria and Steel couldn't play at the same time until Steel got, or rather, Aria and Gang couldn't play until Steel got residency at the same time. So
and
yes,
also you just
I can
had
see that.
Gang just not playing for like 4 months with the team.
Yeah,
and because they also said openly like Kazu had to take all the scrim time because they needed him to take all the scrim time. So it was a really awkward spot. Yes, Detonation focused me versus Burning Core. Burning Core are our tied second place team, and I think in a lot of arguments, it's between Burning Core or Sengoku, and that's depending on are you more on the side of the Burning Core top side is just the best thing to compete against for DFM, or are you a honey believer for Sengoku? And that's kind of the 2 camps that most people fall into on who their second place team is. It's very like both teams have very good points. This game, though, did not feel like a first-place team facing off against a second-place team. And the fact is, gentlemen, we're actually only about 4 weeks away from playoffs happening, a month away. And that also means the Juggernaut match is about a month and a week away. If this is what we're going to see in the Juggernaut match, it's going to be a blood. Actually, no, it's going to be 3 weeks away. But
I don't even see like an easy strategy to deal with DFM right now. Like they are
and Poppy smashing. And then maybe.
I think Poppy is huge for the team, and I think it actually opens up a lot of us saying it's like, oh, can DFM have like a really lethal early game? Can they start unlocking that? I think Poppy is kind of one of the answers to achieve that. They've had some bot lane dives at that point.
But then, like, if you're forced to banning Poppy first round, though, like, it's like, well, Steel gets well, I'll just pick up, I don't know, Jinzhou or Jarvan or whatever, or at least it, like, I don't care that much.
No, Yaharong. Pick LeBlanc. Exactly. I got a special pocket pick for you, and then just Shaco comes in.
Exactly. Well, exactly. I mean, there's
it's good as well.
I mean, even then, there's an okay build with Stridebreaker on Jarvan right now into the right comps. Like if it's like Enchanter bot lanes, you basically get to flag and drag auto, then Stridebreaker slow.
When did that happen?
It was Haru did it into
No, because like effectively like
yesterday.
The fact was that like Sterak's was so strong that Gordrank as Sterak's was like almost non-optional. You just had to kind of build it. Now that Sterak's is not really you can get it like I don't know 3rd or 4th sometimes if you got more tanky builds or whatever.
And you forgot that much gold for some reason as a jungler.
Sure, whatever. Maybe someone like an Ornn can build it. I don't fucking know. I don't see the item much anymore.
Like 3rd item, right? It's fine.
I mean, but even then, you'd rather like have maybe something like Death Dance into Sterak's is okay at that point. But yeah, effectively, you don't want to be going Starak second. So Stridebreaker gives you a slightly different way to play out team fights, and if you tag an Enchanter with it, much in the same way that a lot of engagers are taking Glacial into Enchanters, you tag that onto them, they're dead.
They don't go anywhere. It's like Caitlyn Lux lanes, for example. You just murder that lane; they just don't get to escape. Like you can net away, you're not away enough. But the point stands that like if you're forced to ban Poppy against DFM, it's like you realize who you're giving picks to at that point by banning that one away. It's like Yaharong and Ebby and Udapon are all very happy to get other picks as a result of that. I mean, even in this game particularly, like Hart pulls out a Soraka. That's a bit unexpected. That's a bit of a curveball as well. And I wouldn't necessarily have said that about DFM at all times, where like feels like every role has at least 1 or 2 picks where you go, that's a little bit unusual.
Oh, and remember, we're going back to a meta, like, with these Hecarim picks coming up now, with these Udyr picks coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember last season, Steel went, like, 8 or 7-0 on just Olaf, like, last split. Like, this is completely in his wheelhouse. If the meta wants to shift to that direction, he's like, yep, I got 7 wins on the Olaf. You want me to play Udyr? I can do that. You want me to play Hecarim? I can do that. Like, the man is literally just... He's spam picking Poppy till someone bans it because he's waiting for someone to show that they can beat him. Because he's so good at just ulting out enemy junglers and not even doing a smite fight. Like, fuck
all
that
of that
noise.
shit. It's gotten to the point where like his teammates are starting to call him DFM Poppy or DFM Bobi.
He's taking it from Yellow Yoshi. He's such BM.
So credit to you know, he's obviously done a lot of like great work in translating a lot of like the memes and shit which go around LJL Twitter. It's just like so like I can't remember who it was. I think it was Yaharong who's like, I'd like to really thank my teammates. Oh no, maybe it was Harper. It was like, I'd really like to thank Utapon and Ebby and Yaharong and Boppy. It's just like
Boppy, yes.
It makes me fucking laugh. It's good
like
shit, but yeah.
Another tangent briefly before I'm sure Lexi wants to drag us on somewhere. Like, we were chatting with a couple coaches a couple weeks ago, both me and Al, and they were sort of saying like, you used to kind of be able to freely blind pick a lot of junglers like Lee Sin and Xin Zhao and stuff. The way the meta is right now, you can still do that, but it's significantly more punishable. With things like Trundle, with things like Poppy being around and available, there are so many junglers that just don't get to have the free reign they used to. Like, you used to just like take Lee Sin and feel really happy about it. Poppy makes him quite sad, like really quite sad, because he comes in for a kick and he just gets stuck in place. Like there's a serious like that steadfast presence is so strong.
You can fight Poppy on first clear sometimes, where Poppy's like trying to do all the damage, and then if you don't block the Q, then you're a bit boned.
Yeah, but like you can play it, but it's not free. And a lot of Lee Sin, Lee Sin can often like have a lot of angles. You narrow the angles down a lot with things like Poppy. Jarvan as well gets in a lot of trouble with it.
So something that I think I just want to ask the quick question over to is, how does anybody actually beat DFM at this point? Because, I mean, this is the end all be all. Like, first round robin, perfect split. They're actually 8-0 now, so they're on an 8-0 win streak. I mean, the hot take that I'm going to have is they're only going to drop one game at most, ladies and gentlemen.
So, funny thing about that, the record for triple round robin in terms of game score, the best one we've ever had was 20-1 by DFM in spring 2019 by DFM.
Yeah,
sounds about right into my history book brain.
I checked it up like at the start of the podcast. I was like, I wonder actually if they've how they did in the triple round robin in terms of the actual game score. But we've never had a perfect triple round robin. They've had like perfect splits when it was like just when it was the best of 3 era, and it wasn't like so they went like 10-0 in best of 3 series, right? Or something like that.
2016 and 2018, if I remember rightly. I remember sending those to Sam ages ago.
But then, like in terms of the triple round robin best of 1, 2019 spring they went 20-1, and that was obviously really really cool for them. But we haven't. I don't know if we've ever had a best of what, like no game lost rather than series lost series in the LJL. It might maybe back to the very early days, but
no,
that would be historic. And this is the kind of team. This is the kind of team where I think
Alex and say never, because I remember doing the research for it.
I seem to remember that as well. I remember doing some stuff for
Please continue, Alex.
Yeah, but so in terms of the likelihood of seeing an undefeated split, based off what they've shown so far and what the other teams have, there's no exact DFM kryptonite right now. Maybe I think the team that could do it is Sengoku. Actually, I think that with
rematch coming up on Friday as well, like that could be a fun one.
I just think that Jet is so good, man. I just think that Jet is incredible. But I mean, you look at the last time they played, and they were kind of trading blow for blow. But then you also need someone like Paz to outdo Ebby, which he's traditionally struggled to do. So yeah, I mean, I think largely you're going to have to come in with like a huge draft win and smash them early, because they will out-team fight you otherwise, and that's not seemingly on the cards right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm actually pretty confident in giving my back into DFM. Say, go do it, go get that undefeated split. I think that's what's been laid on the table.
I think pending crazy patch changes which DFM don't react to, which is a possibility. Things like Hullbreaker getting like smashed and grabbed on the top lane meta changing, so Ebby can't be as crazy as he was. But otherwise, I think it probably is down to someone like Jet overpowering people, or Flawless and Dice basically tracking steals so they're ahead of the play and just smashing a lane. Like getting either roaming bot and like getting some people ahead, like like Honey and stuff, just absolutely crush a lane, go Caitlyn Lux, get everything rolling, get the first Herald, just get such a significant lead early that DFM can't stabilize, because that's definitely been a way to win. But if DFM get an even or positive early game, I just don't think there's a team that is consistent enough across the board to be able to match them. And that's the scary thing, is like, you're looking like DFM have got a contender for top 3 to best in spot for every role right now, or at least every lane and jungle, right? Like, I think like probably Flawless and Once have been more explosive than Steel, but Steel's also been a wonderful facilitator and great synergy with the teams. Like even then, I think like you're not getting out jungled there, if you know what I mean. You might be being out carried, but that's not the role you're playing. And like you're looking at like that's facilitating for Ebby, Yaharong, and Utapon, who are all like, yeah, we're probably top 3.
Now,
like, and
Alex,
so it's not true of every other team.
Hello.
I'm just gonna say the only real way that they're gonna lose is the new religion, and it's gonna be Honey and Sengoku. Like that's the only, only foreseeable way I can see it. Yeah,
I feel like it has to be Sengoku. I think that's the one team which I'm like,
because they have the insurance policy.
they
remember?
they have more. I mean, we can talk. I mean, we are going to talk about.
We'll talk about them in a bit.
Talk about them in a bit, but yeah, I do think that Burning Core and Sengoku obviously sat there at 6 and 2. I feel like Sengoku have the star power to punch up a bit more than Burning Core. Not that they're a bad team, but yeah.
I just don't believe in Yuhi. All right, sue me. Sue me for my my heresy of.
Wait, who's that over there? It's Hina.
No, as we come back over to the standings, ladies and gentlemen. To keep the show flowing, we started at the very top. We need to talk about the very bottom, gentlemen. We've talked about our top 3 teams to a decent amount. We'll touch on Sengoku again in a moment. We need to talk about V3 first, as we're not going to be covering any of their games directly.
Yeah,
because
let's
at
just
this moment in time, there's no sense in doing it. They're 0 and 8. I just hope we're not seeing another AXIZ or Burning Core, but honestly, it feels like it's worse than those teams. I'll be real honest, lads. It just feels like they've got the fastest average game time because they're losing so quickly.
Yeah. There have been moments when you can see these people know how to play, but they don't have a consistent carry and they're losing so hard in the early game, it's quite hard to see. I think, particularly considering actually a lot of the LJL the average of the LJL has probably gone up. I think over a triple round robin, it would be hard to go. It would be hard to go winless.
Yeah, so for me,
I don't think it gets much better than that.
Yeah, I want to twin this point actually with my chat about AXIZ, so we can kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone here. I think that AXIZ, as much as they have gone to 2 and 6, they are, they've obviously struggled quite a lot in terms of closing a lot of the games. Yeah, but AXIZ, they've picked up a couple of wins. They had that first win versus the Hawks with the Poppy top and shit like that, right?
Haven't been allowed Poppy since, I think.
Something like there was one game where it was available and it wasn't picked, I believe. But they've only played like the one game of it. But I look at these 2 teams and I look at AXIZ and I say, V3, you could have been this, because AXIZ committed to an identity right out of the gates and they said, look, we are on paper going to struggle. So let's go find our way of playing the game. Let's change up the script a little bit and see if we can catch some teams sleeping. And, even when AXIZ lost that really rough game to Burning Core when they just got outplayed everywhere, with failed the dives and stuff, I appreciated the fact that they went towards that style and they kept fighting for it. Whereas V3, I couldn't tell you if they had an identity or not right now. Because they are effectively, as Sam was saying, they're getting smashed in every game. They're getting smashed very, very early on. Even though, this is an org which had traditionally a lot more early game successes. So I just feel like V3, they need to commit to some direction to take their gameplay in and develop around it, even if it sucks for a couple of games, because this is not a good showing from this org.
And I mean, the best showing that they have had was versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. And even then, that still led to a defeat. And it did get to a point where, at least watching that game, it felt like Hawks were just kind of going through the motions poorly, but they were still going through the motions. Whereas it felt like V3 were kind of flailing around and trying to find opportunities. Like, they had some ideas. They did some Fnatic brushes, just not when they needed to. They were so discoordinated. But the Hawks, gentlemen, are not flawless. They have a huge amounts of issues. And that's where I would like to take us over to talk about for this next section, gentlemen, because the Fukuoka Hawks Gaming playing against Crest Gaming Act was the sequel to Burning Core versus Sengoku
Jesus
last
Christ.
year.
It was.
And I feel so bad for RMC because we've given him 2 of these ridiculous matches. Like,
Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
Random Newcaster. That's
Oh, he loves
I'd say it's on us, but I mean that would assume that we know how to like prophesy these games, which I
He's
only
from CB LOL, so he's used to shit like this.
Like it was. I don't. Both junglers like were trying to be the tips of the spears with their supports, but it all felt very discoordinated. I think Nap and Hybrid actually had pretty good games, but again, you need someone to set
both
up
supports
for
were
you.
very bad. this
Yeah,
game.
but exactly. You need like someone to set up for you to run over fights, right? And just the engages
Yeah.
were just not
And,
coordinated.
you know,
on
most
game.
of the time when you see like super heavy engaged supports and you've got some junglers switching dashing, like, okay, you're going to be able to start fights at some point. I mean, they did try to start fights, they were just bad. So yeah, once again, we have been visited by one of these games where like nothing really happens in the positive direction. It just kind of like goes to infinite amounts of dragons, and I just can't believe that the Hawks not only. I thought this could only get so bad. 'Cause I thought they could probably lose, and you know, whatever. They're still developing and blah blah blah. And then it was just like, this is the worst kind of game for me to give any kind of hope in this team, because this is meant to be. I mean, just to reiterate, this is meant to be a fucking super team. This is meant to be a team which
We did a video on
is
Kanatsu because
contending
that's
for.
how much they hyped him. Remember, our shit's on that, and then
Yeah, like I'll add in as well. Like this is they got 2 Barons this game. Like they're like with Aphelios, Orianna, and Gwen split pushing with a
there was
Jintao and an
triple
Alice by
Baron
front
this
line.
game.
But Hawks got 2.
Oh, yes,
CGA
yes,
got
sorry.
1. And
Yes.
but the point being, like you get 2 Barons late enough with like 2 or 3 items on this comp. And Orianna or Aphelios with the front line they had and a Gwen in a side lane should be able to shove in and claim all the inhibitors, and like from that point it should be lights out. I just don't care. Not when you've got double assassin on the other side, like, and the Jinx. Like, yes, you're great in the mid game. Yes, you can still find picks later on. But the sheer front to back and 1-4 from this team should have been pretty much unmatched. Like I'm baffled. I don't understand.
This is where I'd like to flip this, because we're frustrated and flustered at the side of Hawks. There are like 3 members on the side of CGA who actually played sicko mode to let this game go this way. And they didn't die. They didn't get caught out. They knew exactly what they needed to do. Nap, Kaito, and Hybrid. Hybrid didn't die this game, by the way. And Nap and Kaito only died
This
once.
this was Nap's first ever Akali game.
And did
he's
he look
never,
clean?
Yeah, no, and I think that. I mean, that I will say this about Nap: for all that his early lane is not great, has traditionally not been good unless he is on the old Wukong.
Wukong,
His Wukong's good, and his Renekton, and even then sometimes you get bodied on those champions
the
too.
standard
But, like,
Japanese pool of champions is that every top
all
laner
of that
has.
shit. But like, I actually think that Nap might just be the best late game top laner in the LJL. And I think that potentially he's
right
better
up
in late game.
there.
Okay.
He's
Outside
so
of
stable.
DFM, obviously.
Well, I think that even sometimes in history, Nap's been better at Ebby in late game.
Okay.
I think
what
that
I think
that Nap has
more
often had
stable.
to fight from a deficit, and it makes him look really cool when he does do things.
I-
Like, wow,
I like
they were
that.
10,000 gold behind, and somehow he's found a Renekton like stun on AD carry and killed them.
It was that CGA Sengoku game.
Oh yes, yeah, that was a fucking great one.
2020, Which me and you
Yeah.
cast, Lexi, where his Ornn turnaround was just incredible. And that was when Aphelios was out as well. And he gets like as the Ornn
This
out
was
as the
spring
Aphelios.
2020s. This was
Yes.
incredible Aphelios power, and him and Ornn just shuts him down.
And so this guy, like, what I think is it like he is so stable in late game. It means he's allowed to make these plays without letting the pressure of the moment get to him so much, which I think is a real skill.
Nap
I'll still
was
think
born in the
I'll put
wrong
Ebby
era
up
of
there
League.
because I
just
tend to
gonna
think, and I feel like Ebby's more like, look, we're losing its late game. Screw it, I'm going for the play. Let's go for it. And it sometimes make him look bad because you're going for the flip, if you know what I mean, because it's not working out elsewise, which isn't necessarily Nap's style. He's much more of the I will hold my nerve kind of player, which is also exceptionally good, and I can completely understand your argument, Al. I just think there's potentially some nuance there in terms of why he's so good in that late game scenario.
Yeah. Like, he always finds a way to get onto the right targets in teamfights somehow. And I think Akali is actually a great pick for that, thinking about it. I think that Nap Akali is, I'd like to see more of it.
Picking your moment. Yeah.
I would say there's a lot of Whippo-esque vibes in the late game from Nap. I get the same kind of feeling from
to an extent.
like Whippo is just so good and will just like always know his limits in late game. I'm not saying Nap is comparable to Whippo, by the way, in the early game. Whippo is just
Whippo's a psychopath in the early and mid, but I know what you mean. Like, there's a certain
it's the late game quality where he will just
yeah.
he will look blankly at any moment and will just like, I know what I need to do here, and I'm going to execute it flawlessly. And if it doesn't work out, at least I did my job, which was honestly how him and Arya got a lot of wins in CGA. Remember, like, that was, if it wasn't for Nap in a lot of scenarios with he's not in the LJL anymore. Who's the AD carry that I'm forgetting from CGA in 2020? That he's now no longer got a job because he didn't have a very good season.
Gango.
Gango,
Art?
there we go.
Yeah.
No, Gango. You're right with Gango because Gango's no longer in the league because he had a bad split on Sengoku or whatever. I don't know. He
was still fine. It's really annoying.
Yeah. Anyway, though, Chris Gaming Act, where do you put him? I think I'm very comfortable with their current placing on the leaderboard. Like, I actually think it's a very fair location to put them. Whereas Hawks, I don't think they'll make playoffs unless AXIZ give them playoffs.
I'll say CGA have really impressed me in their turnaround because they basically went from 1-3 and now on a 4-game win streak. Like, at the beginning of the split, I thought this team was washed. I thought Hybrid wasn't able to pull things off, and like Kaido and jungler's name is escaping me briefly. Someone rescue me.
Kassin.
Kassin, yeah. But like we were seeing the inside of Kassin, thank you. And it was just like the synergy wasn't there with Kaito, who's a new guy anyway.
2021 Kassin popped his head
like,
up
and like that was
hello.
it just wasn't happening.
Unica.
But like actually they turn around, the turnaround's coming through. Nap's still consistent. Hybrid is another AD carry player who's looking like really good. Like we've got 4 or 5 of them now, which is kind of scary.
I would say Nemo looks a lot like his spring version of AXIZ, and that's kept going on so far. But I mean, hey, we know where Nemo comes in. And also, he's still getting used to playing with Hybrid. Like, Honey, he said in that interview, I keep harking back to it, but it's like, he is playing with a very different type of AD carry. Yeah. So it's not surprising that there is a lot of adjustments for him to do. Honey was most likely, in my eyes, probably the shot caller and the defining voice on AXIZ, and he played safe. He knew his limits. Whereas Hybrid wants to limit test everybody. So
you were talking about like CJ and like being happy with their placement. So I know that we have one more game to actually talk about, and I think this segues nicely into it. I think that actually I would put them down at 5th because I feel like Rascal Jester after their game versus Sengoku, I can see them starting to wake up. Actually, they are currently 4-4, but they took a really important game off of Sengoku, which was actually the first time that happened. Sengoku came through, and Honey had a great game. Jet was an absolute monster. I'm trying to remember if that was the Jet U Beauty game. I don't think it was. I think that we're seeing Recap probably in the best form that he's actually been in maybe ever at this point. And I think there's a lot to start getting your hopes up for Rascal Jester. And I think that the fact that it's a longer regular season when you've got triple round robin gives me some hope for them. I was not impressed by the first couple of weeks. Dropping 4 games like that and going even in your game score is not what I expect from a top table team. But this is now looking like a better team.
I think I've enjoyed Recap's growth. I still think you can shut him down early. He's still a player you can attack, but I still think he's very good. What I will say, that if for whatever reason you can hold Sol and Secret accountable in lane, which is easier said than done, but if you can do it, and it has been done, look at the game versus, obviously, like, we're looking at one here with Rascal Jesters versus Sengoku, which is a good example of it as well, right? But I'm also thinking like the CGA game where CGA kind of demolished their Kate Morgana lane, or rather got at least managed to hold it accountable later into the game. If you can hold them accountable and then attack Hachimecha, or at least track him, like Hachimecha that is a known quantity in the early game is someone you can very severely punish. We've seen it for years now. That like actually remember the like when he was playing Hecarim and got
Yeah.
Olafed multiple times. Like we saw it last year's one when Rascal Jester were losing games. Like, can you find Hatchemetcha? Can you track what he's doing? Oh no, they've fallen apart. Oh dear, Sol and Secret can't leave lane because because they're bot laners and haven't got anything going on right now. Oh no, and the map just falls apart.
And we
that
know
is
that
definitely an element
Hatchemetcha
right
also
now.
struggles if his lanes start falling apart. He is not the kind of jungler that can proper lane back up, and we saw
Yeah,
that perfectly in 2020 with Rascal
Bingo.
Jester. Sadly,
To sum it up, I don't think Hatchemetcha plays damage control very well. I think that's and I think that's something like, and I think he's quite a good facilitator for your team, and he's like quite good at finding angles and stuff when you need him for around like big objectives and stuff. But he's not a carry jungler, and he is a jungler that can bleed out if you put him under pressure with his lanes kind of being forced to be in lane for whatever reason. And I feel that when they have lost, that's often been quite true. Sol and Secret have either had mediocre games that have been held to account, and Hatchemetcha has been exposed a bit from that.
I mean, and that's the other side to look at this. Like I've been disappointed overall with Rascal Jester. I've been very unsurprised when they've looked strong. I think that's it's a very difficult way to put it, but I'm sad when they lose because I'm like, you guys shouldn't be losing like in these ways. Like I'm expecting more of you, but when they win, I'm like,
I need to see more win conditions. Is basically what it is. Because like Sol and Secret when they get ahead, like this game, like Sol went 9-1-8 on this. It was disgusting, like absolute beautiful stuff. We see why he's one of the best AD carries.
Exactly what they had to do.
Exactly. If you're looking like he's arguably the best AD carry in the league, he's still right up in that conversation. Like he, Honey, Hybrid at the minute, Udapon, like you've got a few names up there, but he's still right up there as one of the absolute best. And I don't think that's changed. And Secret as well is a very good proactive support, but I need to see more win conditions. Like Recap is kind of becoming that.
Yeah, Recap
but I feel
really good.
But I sometimes feel Recap by himself isn't that, if that makes sense. He wants somebody else there doing stuff with him. But maybe that's being harsh. Maybe that's the meta.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see, gentlemen. Rascal Jester. Actually, let's do a very quick rundown for our audio listeners. Donation folks, me 8-0. That 8 win streak, as we've already mentioned. Burning Core are currently sitting at 6-2, tied with Sengoku Gaming, also on 6-2. Burning Core on that win streak. Sengoku on that loss streak. That's just one game apiece, though, so nothing really of note. Crest Gaming Act, obviously, as we've mentioned, is on a 4-0 streak. Started that 1-3, and they've found a pretty strong showing when playing against the lower end of the teams. It's just going to be important to see if they're able to maybe chip away slightly more convincingly at the upper teams is going to be my big question for them. Rascal Jester sitting at the 4-4 team. I mean, their first round robin was positive. Sadly, they lost one afterwards. But hey, still pretty good for them overall. AXIZ got 2 wins, and now they're on a 0-6 loss streak. Definitely struggling to find those win conditions and ways to work out. Hopefully, they can figure something out. But the teams below them aren't showing much hope anyway. And that is the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, who only beat V3 Esports in the last few games. And V3 Esports, obviously, going for the loss streak win rate or world record in the LJL. I think
they're TFTing it. They're just they're
looking at the loss streak.
Yeah, if they go halfway through, it's going to be really tough. And something that's also going to be tough is, gentlemen, as we go on to our next main topic, or rather subtopics, because that was the main topic, ladies and gentlemen, before you get concerned or anything. Let's talk about the triple round robin. This is new to us because ever since we started covering the LJL, they had done the double round robin. This is now triple, similar back to 2019. And Nymaera, this was a topic you brought up, so I'm just going to give the floor to you.
So obviously I brought this up with Rascal Jester, but I do think that the triple round robin has been... I like it, I have to say. I think that it's much more digestible having 4 game days and having the ability to split up game days so teams actually have a day at least, or 2 days rather at least, to prepare for the next game, which is really, really important. I think it's going to favor our teams that can prepare well, and we're going to see higher quality of games from that. I think that's it also, it means that we're more likely to have the best teams in the right places at the end of the split. And I think that having extra games to kind of get over early slumps, like, I don't know, someone like Rascal Jester can do, and maybe we can track also, some teams with the great early starts who have actually, not actually got the staying power. Maybe someone like Burning Core or CJ starts falling off a little bit as they can't kind of keep up with the improvement of the other teams. I've been liking it so far. I think that the pace of games has been pretty good. I think that the quality of games has been pretty good too. But yeah, interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
Sam, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it gives you a much more coherent idea of where teams have matched up across a split, because you do actually get a head-to-head that isn't just a tie, right? You're not like, it's not down to one final tiebreaker, which is kind of cool. It's super exciting, don't get me wrong. But I do think I think it's probably slightly fairer if you're measuring a performance across a split to have at least this kind of the best of three scenario, effectively, where you can kind of have like, a 2-1, or the worst you're going to get is a 2-1 record one way or another, which I think definitely gets people in a better position in terms of their matchups against people. I also think that it's quite nice, again, not to have the crazy long days from our perspective. And I think potentially from a broadcast perspective as well, you're treading on slightly less toes because you can shift your viewer base around a little bit across the week. The only thing I'll say is it's potentially tougher on the teams because you've got 3 match days interspersed throughout a week with like a day between them sometimes to try and prep for teams. And that means there's not a lot of space to have time off. And that doesn't mean if you're having a difficult time and you've got to resist. Yeah, and that can get a bit tough on teams, especially for a triple round robin. That's a lot of games. I think it's mostly okay because it's not back to back to back. It's just, I could see at the end of the season some players getting a bit burned out. That's my one concern.
I love the fact that we've got a triple round robin. I absolutely adore it. I always think more games are better for overall analysis and understanding of who the best teams were on a given season. Just have more results to look at, and you can start actually doing results-based thinking when you actually have a larger sample size. So I'm always for that stuff because it just gets you actually to a better place of who the better teams are, who the worst teams are. I will caveat it, because I completely agree with Initialise on the fact of burnout and the fact that we saw it in the LCS where it was back to back to back. Players were like, we just don't get to practice for 3 days. That's still the same. It's now just staggered, which isn't necessarily a better way. At least when you know you've got 3 days where you're just like, okay, we don't play. We get Mondays off because that's international that's international day off for all regions is Monday. So the LJL won't go Monday, and then
unless
they get
unless you're LPL.
Yeah. China different. Yeah. So I don't fuck with China. I fuck with the LCS in Japan and LEC. So they're my regions, and occasionally the LCK. But like you get Tuesday and then you're immediately back in Wednesday. Thursday you get a day off, immediately back in on Friday. Saturday is your day off, and then you immediately back in. And like there's a lot of like struggling to manage schedules and effective scrims and everything. I personally would like to put out the fact that I would rather just have best of 3s. But that would definitely put us into a different place. The fact is you could though have teams prepping for one opponent and then that would be it for that week for them. I don't know if that's better. I don't know if that's
I think this is better than what we had. I think it's better than trying to prep for 2 best of 1s in a day, which is just really meh.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I am an LCK aficionado in some ways. I do love their best of 3 system. I really enjoy watching it, but they can kind of get away with it in some ways because that's always been the way they've done it, and their fan base.
They don't have to fight to instate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think the quality of the teams is
LJL, actually.
True. But I also like the quality of the teams is enough that you don't end up with matches which people just don't care about as much. Like you tend to have at least, half to 2/3 of your teams being like, yeah, you're really good. So you don't have too many bots who are like, oh my days, this is bottom feeder central. These 2 best of 3s is going to be so incredibly dull, which also helps. Which I think perhaps is what the likes of the LCS and the LEC kind of eventually moved away from it, because it's like, yeah, a lot of these best of 3s aren't actually that interesting to watch.
But our playoff series are always bangers. So, I mean, maybe it's correct to just keep it to
wrong.
playoffs. Maybe it's correct to just always keep our best of series to playoffs because they're always bangers. Remember, DFM got pushed those 5 games by Burning Core, which no one expected. And it was an absolute awesome series. We always have a great best of 5 series. So, yeah, no, you know what? I'm fine with that one. Another thing, and this is Alexi opinion special, ladies and gentlemen.
for it.
Oh boy, here we go. Let's go.
It's all right. So with 2 weeks left till Super Week, and that's where we have Monday, Wednesday. So by the way, LJL players just aren't getting a day off for like 3 weeks, which is
Which is where my concern came in. Yeah.
absolutely.
It's tough.
So we will have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So Monday, Sunday back to back, and still Wednesday, Friday. We're gonna work out
big week.
logistics, ladies
It's a
and
big week.
gentlemen. But we've only got 2 weeks until our double Super Week happens. My opinion is this 2 week period is where teams need to make their adaptations, because once once our Super Weeks, or I don't know how we're going to have to refer to these, but those last 2 weeks of the LJL is so full on. If you expect teams to do adaptation during then, you're kind of kidding yourself, in my opinion. I think
Yeah,
their
that's a good point,
adaptation time is this 2 weeks. That means we're going to see a lot of changes, and if teams don't adapt now, especially remember, patch 12.14 will be coming in probably next week, which means that's going to affect how some teams are going to be preparing. We're going to find out tomorrow, so this might already be out of date, but like, if teams don't adapt now, it's over, and they won't make playoffs. And I'm looking specifically at V3
Oh,
Sports.
also, by the
Yeah.
way, I'm fairly sure that coming into like the next week of play, that Renata is going to be enabled. Renata Glass. I'm pretty sure that's coming around.
Maybe.
So if
Let's
that hits us,
go.
holy shit.
So
Anyways,
it's gotta be something.
I'll add this in before we consider Renata, which of course is always an interesting conversation, because that champion is certainly a thing.
Sure something.
Aggressive takeover. What a wonderful ability.
It is.
Anyway, it's just, I genuinely think it's very fun. It's completely ridiculous, but it's fun.
My opinion, though.
I'll throw this out, but for context, the way Super Weeks used to work is you actually used to have a week off the time before, effectively. Was it the week off, or was it? And then you basically, so you had a bit of, and then you come in super hard for the Saturday and Sunday. It was like 16 games in 2 days. But what it basically meant was that you did have time to. A lot of teams actually had big turnarounds over Super Week because they got the time off to basically take a timeout like you would in CSGO or whatever, or reorganize, have some time to change what you're doing, to really focus on it and come in with completely new strats, completely new ideas, and try and turn around your season. And a lot of fortunes were made or broken on that turnaround. That's not really here anymore. Like, it just gets more intense for 2 weeks, basically. There's no break, and suddenly you're into more games. So if things are going wrong, they're going to go wrong harder. I feel that with particularly the lack of break and the lack of time to adjust coming through there, if you are coming in on a downward trajectory, the schedule really encourages or exacerbates difficult situations for teams, because it's gonna snowball downhill from there, right? Like, if you've got things wrong, there's no time to fix it, like, at all.
I mean, to just really emphasize how little time teams have to fix it, could someone tell me when the first match of LJL spring season ends? Like, what is the last date of LJL?
It is
even
Friday
know.
the 25th of March.
Oh my god. Do you want to know the adjustment turnaround time that teams have for play-ins? For playoffs?
Tell me.
Game number
Maybe like
1
a
of
week,
playoffs
isn't it?
starts on the 30th.
Woo, 5 days,
days
baby.
after the last
Well, they have to
match.
fly during then, and they're not going to get up to scrim. That's actually pretty shit, thinking about
That
it.
is...
Oh yeah, like I knew
Alright.
that we were running late because
started,
LEC's
like, 2
regular
weeks
season,
after.
regular season ends this weekend.
Yeah.
We're like halfway through our split. I mean, even though we're a couple of weeks off, that sets you a couple of weeks back. Where is MSI held this year?
We don't know. It's not been announced still.
Not been announced, no.
Well, if that's like hugely across the world for them, that's okay.
We are
That's
going to
actually
be
not
one of
something
the
I
first
considered.
regions,
That's
though,
pretty bad.
to end our playoffs. Like, we are actually we are speed
Oh,
running
right,
it through.
okay,
So
that helps.
whether wins
That
the
helps,
split,
yes, a little bit.
assuming DFM, because let's just run the assumption that it's safe to say that at the moment.
Of current standings and performances, they seem like the front runner. That's pretty fair to say.
They will at least have time to win the LJL, and hopefully they can go through the Juggernaut match system, so we keep the same playoff system. So it actually won't affect the theoretical winner, because the theoretical winner, since we've been covering, has always come from the Juggernaut match. Some way or another. Whether they lost the Juggernaut match or won the Juggernaut match,
It was
they
one of our
came from
top
the
2 teams.
Juggernaut
It's actually
match.
very true. Yeah.
So hopefully on that assumption that continues, it shouldn't be a huge issue. It just feels really bad for the lower teams who might look to make a deep run. This puts us in a really weird spot, gentlemen, doesn't it?
Yep, that's actually something which I need to sit and think on a little bit more. Maybe that's something that we return to a little closer to MSI.
Yes.
Right. So we have a couple of. Do we want to go through questions?
Yes.
or-
Let's very quickly jump over and do these few questions that our lovely community slash.
Or in this
staff-
case, all of our fucking cast is asking them.
Well, because they want our opinions and they don't want to DM us separately to get each of our individual.
Yeah, they've actually put it before the. So there's two ways because, like, you can either like message me on Discord or on Twitter. I'll be like, oh, I'll be kind of chill about it. I'm just me. Or you can send it to the council. And that's us. So if you want to do that, just pop it in the everything. So yeah.
Old strategy. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ask us questions, join our Discord server. It's in there. The link's in the description. Type in !Discord, or if you're watching this on YouTube or any of the audio platforms that you can get your podcast needs through. You can find it in this description down below. Or if you can't even be bothered to do that, just hashtag tweet LJL podcast and we will find it. I do scrape through before we go through every single time. First question, gentlemen. First question coming to us is from Oak. Hello, Oak. How are you, mate?
Hi, Oak.
Hello, Oak. Am I allowed to ride my bicycle?
Shut up, Sam.
What do you
joke.
feel about the rotation of meta picks in the mid? I'm just ignoring him. With multiple champions seeing nerfs. TF and Corky, even though we all love TF and he's just getting a lot of bans still anyway in the LJL, and other champions rotating in. Which team will be the first to adapt? Are there any picks you guys are looking at?
I've talked about this a lot, so I'm going to use my cookie cutter answer that I've used everywhere. We have seen, Corky and TF nerfed, but even if they're not appearing as much, they're just being replaced by stuff that was already there. We're not really seeing anyone pick up new stuff. It's just the best of the remaining stuff. TF still kind of does what he does. He doesn't get to fight as early into lane because the attack speed on his E is actually pretty big. When you've only got one level into it as well, you don't tend to level it until way later into the game. His wave clear is similar. I think there's one interaction which affects solo queue quite a lot, which Apto used to do, where I think when you were level 5, I think it was the cannon wave where you hit 6, you can stand out of range of the enemy champion, and like enemy laner, Q the wave twice, kill the backline, and like you'd get the XP to go, like recall, like hit 6, recall, come back, teleport with an ignite somewhere, and just like kill someone. Now that's not as possible, but TF still functionally in pro play does the same thing. So in terms of the mid lane picks, we haven't seen a huge amount of change. And if it has been, it's been replaced by stuff that was kind of already there. So sadly, mid lane is bit status quo right now.
I'm going to double down with you, mate, because global ultimates are still good. That's why TF is also really strong. He's got really good abilities. The fact that he also just has Destiny just for vision control is always going to be relevant in pro play as well. So you can't really just nerf him into the ground unless you make his stats just absolutely trash. Or he has no build path, which has been an affection for him when he first lost the Lichbane way back when. But I mean, I'll be honest, I completely double down with Nymaera. I think things like Galio and a few other champions could start seeing a bit more play, but I mean, there's no reason to not play the good shit that's already currently just kind of replacing it. I don't really see a reason to stop playing that stuff.
I'll say that there has been some stuff that's already come through. Like Veigar's been rising in priority. That's definitely come through. That's
kind of just the status quo of control.
Sam, it's actually getting nerfed next patch.
I know, well, it's actually getting nerfed, but the point was that it was for the LJL because Recap was doing it, but other places took a little while to pick up, and they've kind of been going towards it a bit more recently. I also think that I think Ari's kind of come up a little bit as an option if you can play it right, but it has come up, especially since her changes. Al's had some problems with it, but the point is it's still a pretty it allows you to play a safe but still pretty pick oriented mid laner that can.
No. Initialise. Ari is only for Faker in pro play.
Pretty much.
I mean, like,
don't play it unless you're T1.
Even Cap says it. Even Cap says it. He's like, nah, just go W and go AD because no one else can play Ari like Faker.
Exactly. So like, I think if you're good, it's doable. I think people just haven't been playing it right.
So I think the thing, my difficulty with this question is that actually a lot of the stuff which you could pick up as new picks were already there. They're not actually getting that. They're not getting changed to be relevant. It's literally just like I guess we're not picking Corky right now, so guess we'll pick
Yeah,
this.
I think we're going to see a little bit more of Silas and Akali actually coming up again a little bit more. They've both kind of been hovering around the edge, but I do
Akali's
think
good. Yeah, Silas.
there's some, especially because some of the things that we're able to at least lane into her and make those champions and make them feel a bit miserable aren't quite as prevalent in the core
Initialise. Initialise. I'm sorry, I can't stand by and allow that to slip through. Akali is the the highest presence champion.
Oh, absolutely, but that's the reason I think since Cork. Exactly, which is why I think Corky and TF, with them going down, she's gone up, and she's also been
going up before. She's been going because we haven't changed patches. Remember.
True enough, but I also think people. I mean, true enough, but I also think it's like I think she's also finding a bit of space in top lane, which I think I wasn't expecting to see her go back to as much. But people have been doing that again.
True.
So like, because what there's been often is they've been picking her into Gwen is what it is. But with things like the Corky and the TF having gone, she's had a bit more space to come up.
That's true.
Maybe we'd see a little bit of Aurelia with Death Dance being quite good. That's the only other one I'd say.
Sure.
Because Blader King, Shield Bow, Death Dance is pretty.
Oh no, yeah, Aurelia's pretty good.
Aurelia's the best.
Yeah, no. So the big thing is obviously fighter item changes. But yeah, that's yeah.
And that's really good for AXIZ because Megumin only plays fighters. Don't put him on control mages anymore. AXIZ might win more games.
Whoop, whoop. Okay, cool. Anyway, I think we've blasted that question. On to the next one.
Yeah, no more of that one. Oh, thank you for the question, mate. Though BrackishBrit asks us, hey, question for Initialise. So this is for you only, Sam, apparently.
Tell me, Brackish.
I mean, we can have a break. Never played From Software game. Worth it to get Elden Ring, or should I start with a different game?
So I have never really played a From Software game either, and I've just been going on Elden Ring. So my thoughts thus far: one, I've still got a lot of learning to do, so I've been kind of having a fun for a few hours trying to beat the Tree Sentinel, which is kind of the first boss you can properly fight, sort of, and that's been fun. But for me on PC, there is big stuttering issues. Like my PC is good, but it's not running a 30 series card. It's a very nice 2080 card, but it's not a 30 series card. And even then, like the graphics haven't been the problem. It's just serious stuttering issues on a pretty high-end PC that's been consistent across most people, and its frame rate capped at 60. That is a bit irritating on PC. That said, it is by far the most accessible if you want to give a game like this a go and you don't mind dying. It's a really cool time. I've been enjoying it, but I like the challenge. I think it's a beautiful world. The open world element of it means you can actually skip past bosses you don't want to fight. I'm just stubborn, and I'm learning the hard way, basically, about how on earth do I take down these crazy bosses, like, with some difficulty. But you don't have to play it that way. It's a rich world to explore. There's lots of secrets everywhere. You can level up in peace and then come and take down bosses when you're like way over level. And it'll still be difficult because there's certain moves that are just dumb. But you have got the room to take this game a little bit more with some more tangents, which I think makes it easier to access. It's not an easy game, but it is easier to access than other games. So I potentially suggest it, yes.
Or play the Wii version, which is Sakura. What's it called?
Sekiro. Yeah.
Yeah. The Two Shadows one. Play the one that's set in Japan, and it's also cheaper.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah, that's
Sekiro is a very good game. Yeah.
So
I enjoyed watching it, not really played it myself.
Yeah, I've not played it, but I've heard pretty positive things. That was the only run, and also Japan. Let's go, LJL. Thank you for the question. Oh God, Middlecott. We're going to have a performance talk in a few weeks because of this question that you're asking. Hope you understand. I hope you understand, mate.
Yeah.
Because he's asking us to do something I don't know if I can literally do it. And I know he's asking nicely. Ignoring past performances. What are our thoughts on Yuhi's play this split?
Okay.
Go on, Alex. You start.
All right. I will confidently say Yuhi is. It's hard to say it. Yuhi is not the worst AD carry in the LJL. He is currently probably.
You know what?
He's better than Marble and Dress Code.
No, so take out the rookies. There we go. Take out the rookies. Where does he stand?
Okay. Here's what I will say. Yuhi has in past splits been the worst player in the LJL.
Yep.
And actually, this split, if I had taken his nameplate off, I would not say he's the worst player in the LJL. I think he's actually been pretty serviceable. It
He's been
hurts a
solid,
little
yeah.
bit, but yeah, it hurts a little bit, of course, that there are so many other phenomenal AD carries in the LJL. For an 8-team league, 5 of our AD carries are all vying for best. Like, that's kind of nuts between like Hybrid, Honey, Sanctuary, Udapon, Sol. All of those have all been pretty good. Yuhi, I don't think is at their level, but he's not being demolished by them either. And it helps that Fujimoto's actually been pretty good at roaming, and the top side of Burning Core is phenomenal. They don't need him to do well, they just need him to survive.
He's stable enough, and particularly when they have a really good top side, and actually Fujimoto are playing a lot of stuff like Time Kench to paper over the cracks of Yuhi's poor positioning that he's had in previous splits. I think that's less of an issue this time around. Like, at the end of the day, he's managed to be funneled a lot of resources on Jinx and Aphelios, and that tends to be a winning formula in the meta. And yeah, I think that it helps that the team knows how to play around those kind of picks, right? I'm really interested to see what happens when Jinx and Aphelios inevitably get nerfed, and whether he has to go back to something like Jhin or Ezreal, which he has typically struggled on a bit more. But for now, actually, he's pretty solid. Credit to him. Check in a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the worst ADC. He's not the best, though, and he's... In my opinion, I still think he's the worst out of the non-veteran AD carries, which is not trying to bring him down by any strength. It's more just the fact is I completely align with what you said, Sam. Every other AD carry in the region is vying for first, and he is just not vying for first. And I would argue his support is also not vying for top 3 in their role. I think Fujimoto is fantastic at doing what he's currently doing, but he's not NT. He's not Secret. He's not Harp. So he's still got a step to go, but hey, you know what? Burning Core looks solid, and Yuhi isn't a leak. Like, Yuhi doesn't feel like he's going to lose them games randomly.
Interestingly, like, I'm always a tangent again, but I'll do it. I actually think, off 5 seconds of thought, that support has been the worst performing role in the LJL thus far.
It's because we don't have Corporal now, you know. It's, we should have seen it coming.
Don't have Gang.
Corporal's gone. Yeah, they've gone. That's the problem.
We don't have Proud either.
Corporal, come back.
That's actually a very good point. Secret's not playing great right now, and Nemo, who was obviously a big force for us, is not.
They've been at least inconsistent, right? And
we have Harp, who's doing well. NT's been doing well.
Yeah, Harong's been... No. Who did I just say? Fujimoto's been fine.
But outside of that, there's been a lot of sketchy performances, actually, thinking about it. Again, you consider last year, I would have said that actually last split, support might have even been the best consistent role, especially for Japanese talent.
I'm a little bit surprised to say.
Especially for Japanese talent. I mean, we knew we were losing a lot of big supports going into the split. We lost Proud, we lost... Alchemy was always a little bit over the place, but when he was on, he was really, really good. Lost Corporal.
Having a really off split.
I mean, Reiner's been off ever since that Worlds run.
Yeah.
Like, he's had a couple of REL games since, but yeah, we need to see a revival from him. But
that's a really weird place to say, because I wouldn't say Hatel is awful, but I mean, he's probably the worst support player, but he's not awful. But then it's like, how much worse is he than Dicey? Not much. Like, not much. It's really not far. Well, that's an interesting point to bring up, Sam. We'll have to investigate that more thoroughly.
It was just a thought. I was like, I don't think they've been playing very well this split. Like, there's a few sports have been good. Like, I mean, Harp's been great. We've said that. Secret's had their moments, but inconsistent. You know, all of that stuff. It's just like,
I think the reason Fujimoto looks so good is because he's connecting up with his jungler so well, flawless. And I think that's the same reason for NT and wants as well. So, might be something to do with the connections between support and jungle. But gentlemen, that's the end of the episode. We're actually at the end of it. We've covered all the main topics. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ask us anything, join our Discord server. We're very friendly in there. We do say hello to people. We are just people.
Only hello, nothing else. That's the only thing we say. We just yell hello
people,
at you.
And that's it.
It's hello world. We've got a script that just says hello world at you. That's all it is. Yes. We're not actually real. We're bots.
All content is bots on the internet. We aren't real. This has all been a figment of your imagination. God, what a project.
Print hello word. Let's go.
Or you can tweet #LJL podcast.
#hello world.
Gentlemen, what is something you would like to plug for your next week? What are you getting up to over this next week before we check in with each other next week with more things? I'm going to come to you first for this.
So, what I'd suggest is go back and watch my E-Universe podcast that I did on Sunday, which was really cool.
Yes.
So I was on the E-Universe talking about stuff there and chilling for the NLC. I'll be on the NLC tomorrow with some wonderful people, so come watch me there. Aside from that, those are probably the big things for me. Just, I don't know, send me love and affection because I would like it. What can I say?
Very good, sir. Very good. I'll be tuning in. Make sure, go watch the E-Universe.
E-Universe, yeah. It's Universe, but with an E at the beginning.
Oh,
E-Universe.
Okay. E-Universe podcast. Go there. It's at E-Universe on Twitter, I believe, as well.
It is.
Nymaera, what's happening with you?
Well, this was meant to be a break week, and then things happened. So I don't know. Just watch socials. I'm sure you'll find out soon enough. But that's
You'll
stuff.
find out soon enough.
Well,
You love it.
Well, we'll do stuff. And I mean, this was meant to be a break week, and now we're still going. We're still in gear.
Podcasts are different.
Podcasts are different. Kind of, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's a very different kind of vibe. But yeah, I'm not on NLC until last day of the split. Actually, I'm taking a 3 game day break. So I'm not on this week, and I'm not on the first day of next week, and then I think I'll be on for the last day of the split, and then be capping that off, and then we'll be gearing up for talks after that point. So yeah, and then with that, so wish me some good rest and some recovery time.
I hope you actually get some sleep.
Yeah, me too.
And also buy those blackout blind things. I feel like that would be a good idea. Well, no, blackout sticker, whatever.
The things, yeah.
The thing, do the thing. For myself, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to attempt to have a video coming out this week talking about, and I am going to give the people that made it all the way here, why League of Legends esports is fucking awesome. But it also sucks in a lot of ways. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why it sucks. I'm not going to tell any of the reasons why, because I'm not going to leak my content. God, I worked hard on that shit. But yeah, League of Legends Wii Sports is awesome, but it also sucks. And there's a lot of things they could improve on it. And I'm excited as someone that has worked in the League of Legends esports scene for about 2 years. These are some things I've noticed. I'm also potentially going to have a video on 2 more topics coming around at the same time, but they will probably be staggered, and you'll find out more about that. Other than that, LJL. Watch LJL, ladies and gentlemen. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, second round robin. It's all random, so we forget who's actually going to be playing each other because there's no structure, because that's how the second round robin works. Third round robin will be reverse order to what people played in when they played the first round robin. So yeah, but that's super weak as well. So
how exciting.
We'll figure it out. Anyway, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Rate us 5 stars, like us,
Bye.
do all that. Bye-bye.
Sayonara.